A black man is relaxing by his own pool until a white neighbor calls the cops on him, claiming he's a trespasser. Suddenly, two angry officers show up, ready to drag him out, not knowing he's the new chief of police and he owns the house. What happens next will leave your jaw on the floor. A black man sat alone by a private pool, sipping cold bourbon. His skin glistened under the Arizona sun, and peace filled the air around him. This was his home, his land, his quiet joy. His name was Chief Dominic Carter. What most people didn't know, especially not the nosy neighbor across the street, was that Dominic wasn't just some rich man. He was the newly appointed police chief of the entire county. The first black man to ever wear that title in the town of Copper Springs. But right now, Dominic wasn't thinking about work. He wasn't chasing criminals, giving speeches, or solving problems. He was just relaxing, just a man enjoying his own pool in his own backyard in his own custom-built desert oasis. That's when she showed up. A white woman about 45 years old, immaculate blonde bob, piercing voice, designer sunglasses perched on her head, eyes filled with suspicion. She stood outside the gate, staring at him like he didn't belong. Her name was Catherine Winters. Catherine lived across the street. People in the neighborhood called her the HOA Hawk because she watched everybody's business but never minded her own. She held her phone up and shouted over the fence, "Hey, who are you? What are you doing there?" Dominic took off his sunglasses slowly. He didn't speak right away. "Can I help you?" he asked calmly. "Yeah, you can help me by telling me what you're doing, trespassing at my friend's house." Dominic raised an eyebrow. "This is my house." Catherine laughed, but not the funny kind of laugh. It was a dismissive laugh, a condescending laugh. "Don't lie to me," she barked. "This is Sofia Rivera's old place. She moved last year. I know everyone in this neighborhood, and I've never seen you before." Dominic shook his head. He had only moved in 3 weeks ago. The house had been empty for 8 months before he bought it in cash. "I suggest you leave," he said, still polite. "You're making a mistake." "No, you made a mistake," Catherine growled. "I'm calling the police. You're going to regret this." She walked off angrily while dialing 911. Dominic sighed. He could have stopped her, could have flashed his badge, could have ended the whole thing right there, but he didn't. He wanted to see where this was going. 15 minutes later, 2 police cruisers rolled into the driveway, kicking up dust in the desert heat. 2 white officers stepped out, Officer Brooks Sullivan and Officer Ryan Cooper. Both were known in the town, known for their by-the-book approach, known for being particularly harsh with black residents in this predominantly white, wealthy enclave. They didn't even knock on the front door. They marched straight into the backyard. "Hands where I can see them," Officer Sullivan yelled. Dominic blinked slowly. He was still in his swim shorts, still lying on his chair. "Excuse me, we got a call about a trespasser." "Stand up slowly," Officer Cooper commanded. "This property belongs to—" "It belongs to me," Dominic interrupted calmly. "I purchased it 3 weeks ago." "Don't argue," barked Officer Sullivan. "We don't want any trouble, just cooperate." They moved closer, hands hovering near their weapons. "We're going to escort you off the property." "You'll do no such thing," Dominic said sharply, rising to his feet. That's when Officer Cooper reached for his arm, and Dominic moved fast. He twisted out of his grip and stepped back. "Keep your hands off me." Their eyes widened. They weren't used to someone not being afraid. "You just assaulted an officer," Sullivan said. "That's resisting. I'm warning you." "No," Dominic said, pulling a black wallet from his beach bag. He opened it. Inside was a golden badge. They both froze. Dominic held it high in the air, like a shield. "Chief Dominic Carter, Copper Springs Police Department, badge number 2, 183. Silence. The air felt like it stopped moving. Cooper looked stunned. Sullivan blinked hard, like she was trying to wake up from a dream. You're the new chief," she stammered. "That's right," Dominic said coldly. "And you two just stormed into my property. No warrant, no questions, no cause. You didn't even check records or ID, just ran in here because I'm black in a predominantly white neighborhood." They couldn't speak. "Let me guess," Dominic continued. "You didn't believe a black man could own a house like this in this neighborhood, just like Catherine, didn't you?" You acted on a stereotype, and now you're about to pay for it. Officer Sullivan finally tried to speak. We were just responding to a call. You responded with force without protocol. You grabbed me, you threatened me, you disrespected me in my own home. Dominic pointed toward the palm trees, and I have security cameras recording everything. Sullivan and Cooper turned and looked at the red blinking light near the roof. Their faces went white. Dominic picked up his phone. You have 5 minutes, he said, to call your supervisor and report what just happened. I'll wait. Now the officers scrambled to their radios. Voices shook, hands trembled. Across the street, Catherine was still watching, smiling, until 3 unmarked vehicles pulled up to her driveway. Neighborhood association officials, county inspectors, a sheriff's deputy. One of them stepped forward with a thick file. Catherine Winters. The deputy asked, You've received multiple complaints for harassment, discrimination, and racial profiling over the last year. What? That's ridiculous. I'm protecting this community, Catherine protested. Today was the final straw. Catherine looked confused. Then she saw Dominic walk across the street, fully dressed now with his badge in hand. You messed with the wrong man, he told her. But I didn't know. How was I supposed to? You lied to police. You made a false report. You caused officers to violate a citizen's rights, a police chief's rights. You called me a trespasser on my own land. Catherine tried to speak, but nothing came out. Your position on the HOA board has been terminated, the association official said, and there's a restraining order being processed. You're not to approach Mr. Carter's property again. Catherine collapsed into a patio chair in shock. Wait a second. This isn't fair. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this. The next morning, Copper Springs woke up to a storm. Not a storm of wind and sand, but of news headlines, angry voices, and shocking videos. The security footage from Chief Dominic Carter's home had gone viral. The video showed 2 white officers storming into his backyard without cause. It showed one of them trying to grab his arm. It showed his badge. It showed their fear when they realized the man they were manhandling was their boss. By 9:00 a.m., every news channel in Arizona was talking about it. New black police chief harassed in his own backyard by his own officers, mistaken for an intruder at his own pool. Police chief breaks his silence. Racial profiling hits home, literally. The whole town was watching, so was the entire country. But what happened next shocked everyone even more. At City Hall, the mayor, Victoria Lawson, a distinguished white woman in her 50s, called an emergency press conference. All cameras were on her. Yesterday's incident was unacceptable. Mayor Lawson said, No citizen, especially not the chief of police, should be treated that way because of the color of their skin. She paused, looking directly into the cameras. This is not an isolated incident. This is a pattern that has plagued our community for too long. The room fell silent. I've reviewed the security footage and spoken with witnesses. What happened to Chief Carter is inexcusable and reflects deep-seated biases that we must confront. Officers Sullivan and Cooper have been suspended pending a full investigation, and Ms. Winters will face legal consequences for filing a false police report. Across town, Catherine Winters sat in her living room, blinds drawn, phone ringing incessantly. News vans lined her street. Her social media accounts were flooded with angry messages. Her employer had called to discuss her future with the company. Her life was unraveling by the hour. Her doorbell rang. Through the peephole, she saw a face she didn't expect. Dominic Carter. She opened the door cautiously. Chief Carter, May I come in? He asked calmly. Catherine nodded, stepping aside. Dominic entered and sat down in her living room. Do you know why I'm here? He asked. To gloat, Catherine replied bitterly. No, Dominic said. I'm here because what happens next matters more than what happened yesterday. Catherine looked confused. What do you mean? I mean that right now, you're the most hated woman in Arizona. People are calling for you to lose your job, your home, everything. They want you destroyed. And you don't? Catherine asked. What I want, Dominic said carefully, is change, not just punishment. He placed a folder on her coffee table. This contains 2 things. First, A formal complaint against you that will result in criminal charges for filing a false police report. Second, an alternative. What alternative? Catherine asked, her voice barely a whisper. Community service. 200 hours working with the Copper Springs Youth Outreach Program. It's a mentorship initiative for kids from the South Side, mostly Black and Latino children. And a public apology, not just to me, but to the community. Catherine stared at the folder. Why would you offer me this? Because destroying you doesn't fix the problem, Dominic replied. It just creates another victim. What I want is to fix the system that made you think a black man couldn't possibly belong in this neighborhood. Meanwhile, at the police station, Officers Sullivan and Cooper sat in separate rooms waiting to be interviewed by Internal Affairs. Officer Cooper paced nervously while Officer Sullivan sat motionless, staring at the wall. The door opened, and Deputy Chief Elena Rodriguez entered Sullivan's room. Officer Sullivan, she said, sitting down across from her, tell me what happened yesterday. We responded to a call about a trespasser. Sullivan began mechanically. We followed protocol. Did you? Elena asked, sliding a department manual across the table. Page 47, Section 3. Officers must verify property ownership claims before taking action in trespassing disputes. Did you do that? Sullivan looked down. No. Page 53, Section 8. Physical contact should be a last resort, not a first response. Did you follow that? No, Sullivan admitted. Why not? Elena asked. Sullivan was silent for a long moment. Because when I saw him, I didn't see a homeowner, I saw a threat. And that, Elena said quietly, is exactly the problem. Back at City Hall, Mayor Lawson was meeting with community leaders from across Copper Springs, white, black, Latino, Asian. The tension in the room was palpable. What happened to Chief Carter isn't just about one incident or one racist neighbor, said Reverend James Watkins from the First Baptist Church. It's about a culture that assumes black people don't belong in certain spaces. But not all of us think that way, protested Linda Hoffman from the Chamber of Commerce. This is making our whole community look bad. If one person's actions make the community look bad, Reverend Watkins replied, then maybe the community needs to look at itself more closely. Mayor Lawson raised her hands. This is exactly why we're here, not to point fingers, but to find solutions. That evening, the local news reported a surprising development. Catherine Winters had accepted Chief Carter's alternative proposal. She would serve her community service hours and had requested to make a public statement. The next day, cameras gathered outside the Copper Springs Community Center. Catherine stepped up to the microphones, visibly nervous. Yesterday, I made a terrible mistake, she began, her voice shaking. I saw a black man in my neighborhood and automatically assumed he didn't belong there. I didn't ask questions. I didn't introduce myself. I called the police because of the color of his skin. She took a deep breath. I was wrong. Chief Carter had every right to be there. It was his home, his property, his pool. And because of my actions, he was humiliated and endangered in his own backyard. Catherine wiped away a tear. I've lived in Copper Springs for 15 years, and I've prided myself on protecting this neighborhood. But yesterday, I realized that what I've really been doing is policing who belongs here based on how they look. That's not protection, that's prejudice. She looked directly into the cameras. To Chief Carter, I am deeply sorry. To my neighbors, especially my neighbors of color, I am sorry for making our community less safe for you. And to everyone watching, I ask you to learn from my mistake. Don't be a Catherine. As she stepped away from the microphones, the crowd's reaction was mixed, some applause, some murmurs of skepticism, but one person was nodding with approval, Dominic Carter. Later that week, the Copper Springs Police Department announced new training protocols for all officers, focusing on implicit bias and de-escalation techniques. Officers Sullivan and Cooper were reassigned to community outreach positions after completing sensitivity training and issuing formal apologies. And in an unexpected move, Chief Carter established a new neighborhood ambassador program, designed to welcome new residents to Copper Springs regardless of their background. The first volunteer, Catherine Winters. 6 months later, Dominic hosted a community barbecue in his backyard, the same backyard where he'd been confronted and nearly arrested. The pool area was filled with neighbors of all races, children splashing in the water, adults chatting over food and drinks. Catherine arrived with a homemade pie. "Chief Carter," she said, "I wasn't sure if I should come." "Dominic," he corrected her. "And of course you should come, that's the whole point." Across the yard, a young black boy approached them. "Ms. Winters?" he said shyly. "My name's Isaiah. My dad's just moved in down the street." Catherine knelt down. "It's nice to meet you, Isaiah." "My dad says you used to be mean, but now you're trying to be better," Isaiah said with a child's blunt honesty. "He says that's what brave people do." Catherine smiled, tears in her eyes. "Your dad sounds very wise." "Can I go swim now?" Isaiah asked, looking at the pool. Catherine looked at Dominic, who nodded. "Of course," she said. "Everyone belongs in this pool." As Isaiah ran off to join the other children, Dominic turned to Catherine. "Progress isn't perfect," he said, "but it's still progress." The next day, a letter arrived at the station. It was from the governor's office. "Chief Carter, we commend your leadership, your forgiveness, and your vision. You turned an incident of hate into an opportunity for healing. You transformed punishment into progress, and for that, Arizona thanks you." Inside the envelope was a golden pin. It read, "Justice grows where understanding flows." If this story made your heart race or your mind question assumptions, tap that subscribe button right now. We tell real stories that matter, stories that shake your soul and make you think. Because in a world of easy answers, sometimes the hardest path, forgiveness and growth, creates the most lasting change of all.